Okay, good evening, everybody. I always feel like I'm doing a 12-start, or a 12-step, rather. My name's Len, I'm a writer. In this case, it's so I don't stop writing. Been doing this since 1962. So, been around for a little while. Back in the days when we had to snail mail our submissions and all that good stuff. This is going to slip.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
And I'm going to put this, I guess I am going to put it up.
Stay, boy, stay. Okay, I'm going to be reading to you from 3 books tonight. The first one is The River Singing, the one that Janine mentioned. Lexington, Kentucky is the home of Accent Publishing. And they do a poetry month in June of each year. And the works in this are the result of that 30 days of efforts. I hear the river singing when I think of you, that early fall in Paris, the water lapping at the broad steps on the left bank, gaining and losing intensity as the boats passed. It's part of our story. We felt hidden in the vague shadows, part of love's misleading blindness. I know we were lost in our kisses, deep in each other's nearness, not oblivious to the world, but taking it as background noise. Closing my eyes reveals you in belted black slacks, a white blouse open deep at the neck, a thin plaid car coat. The thing is, we were never in Paris. We never got as far as fall. As far as I know, only one of us might have been in love. If it never happened, is a memory a lie? A lot of what I'm doing nowadays is ekphrastic, or at least inspired by photographs and paintings, if not directly about them. 57 years of writing, I've run out of inspiration a lot quicker. And now that I've been retired for 6 years, life is so boring, there's not a whole lot that just pops up and says, write a poem about me. In this case, a photograph on Pinterest of 2 women standing next to an old car. This is the picture of that nice man, the one who stopped to see if we 2 single women needed help changing the tire after I'd done it. Bless his heart. Took with my brownie. Oh, that roadster looks dirty, but then we'd done a lot of driving. And there was more to come, yes. We'd already been all the way to Smithsburg, and we were on our way back here. Days alone together, taking turns driving, back before the roads became highways. Should I tell you the story about the not-so-nice man? The one who tried to rob us in Pittsburgh? Millie kicked him in his tender parts. And when he dropped his gun, I picked it up. So when he finally got up and said he was going to kill us both, I really did have to shoot him. It was bad luck that a policeman came by, and quite a chase until we lost him in a really bad part of the city. They could still be looking for us, though it's been a lot of years now, and there's only me left to look for. Or should I tell you the truth? That we went to Millie's brother's wedding, and aside from the flat tire and the lovely nights, it was a very boring trip. Maybe it's all true. Yes, we're standing sort of far apart in this picture. It wouldn't have done for anybody to think, let alone know, that Millie and I shared a bed. We both had family and children, jobs and church. It's different now mostly. And since I lost her, I don't really care what people might say. Either story you believe, that last part I will always swear to. Naked to each other at last, they stand at the edge of the Lee, looking towards the forest. They've come so far together. Her striped gown, cream, and the color of her undone ginger hair is marred by green at the hem from the walk hair. His dark suit speaks of a formality belied by their embrace. They enfold each other as a sailor would cling to flotsam while awaiting a rescuer's hand, afraid the hand might never appear. The woods are dark, faintly featured, even darker and less certain when compared to their paths so far. They're afraid to enter, afraid not to, while knowing very well that one must occur. These are the eyes that caught mine unexpectedly when you turned to speak with the someone behind you. Distant blue planets calling out for a journey of exploration. This is the sunshine golden smile that guided me as I approached. This is the hand that gifted mine when I asked you to dance. The cheek that touched mine as one of us drew the other close. The ring of our orbits around the floor. This is the dress you hung with deliberation. These the fluttering kisses and the feeling in me as we touched. This is the image of you, of us, of the perfectly imperfect angles and compound curves that somehow found a way to fit as I saw myself reflected in these eyes. Bit of change. Series of photographs by the Russian and then Soviet photographer Rodichenko, starting shortly before the revolution and carrying on into the 30s. This one of a square set between two tall buildings. This is the market square where the students and soldiers met yesterday. This space bordered on all sides by towering concrete, broken by windows and balconies, holes and scars left low on the walls by gunfire. Tomorrow it will be covered with stalls and tables and carts, all laden and filled with good things, bright and beautiful, promising to fill the lives of browsers and touchers and buyers. Today we clean and print in preparation for the pretense that all is well, setting pots of flowers upright in doorways, sweeping the chipped concrete into hungry shovels, casting dark shadows in the morning sun while scrubbing on our knees at the stubborn blood that surrounds the silhouettes of those who fell here. And I think everybody in the room was pretty much around in the early 1960s, so the source of this one probably will be fairly obvious. The instant this monk drops the lighted match, he crosses irrevocably from life to death, from protester to martyr in the cause against his country's hatred. Few will understand what would bring a man to that fork in his path. Few will even begin to comprehend from their self-referential vantage the results of daily acts they'll excuse but never have to face. Years and lifetimes later, in a not-so-distant country, too few will take the time to reflect on why a family would risk everything to enter at a moment when their government turns hatred to stone, no less palpable for not being physical in form, while fewer will refuse to toss the match. And the last one from the river. After following you home, the twin black cats shared the sill of the open bedroom window, observing the rising full moon as if it called for them to report to you, as if they were self-appointed familiars to your spells. The board you placed on the rug between us began to select letters before a question was even chosen. Leave him, it spelled without hesitation. And you replied in kind, throwing it into the fire that warmed the room, growling profanities as you led me to the waiting goose-down mattress and pillows. At some point before morning, the candles on your dressing table flared and guttered in a sudden breeze, and you left me long enough to shoe the cats and close the shutters. A friend of mine runs Poets Hall Press in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I was fortunate to have him decide that he wanted to run one of my manuscripts through his press. Release date of somewhere between Halloween and Valentine's Day. It's a two-man press, and they use Kinko's to produce the chapbooks, so I can understand. It's called Forfeit Hopes of Heaven, and these are a few poems from that. Closing time. Up the road, they've stopped mowing the grass at the TB sanatorium. It's closed since the disease is pretty dead, and besides, there's better ways to deal with whatever's left. We were taught to be careful, to pronounce it Orium to distinguish from where the crazy people lived. We weren't taught to be so kind when speaking of the damaged. Down the road, the locks are rusted on the other one, the sanitarium. They've closed that too, because there's better ways to spend the money than to care. After a photograph taken in 1958 by the New England photographer Saul Leiter, hat with roses. The dress, blue with white polka dots, is washed to a faded, tarnished silver by the heat of the 3 o'clock sun, like the brooch below her neck, an artifact of the time and place. The red, broad-brimmed, darker blue, the hat, broad-rimmed, darker blue, retains much of its color despite the sun. Shadows in its corrugations fool the eye. Around the brim, a smoky haze of lace nesting, maybe 7, 8 pink and white roses. As afterthought, the wearer's face, so shadowed to be invisible, the eyes and the soul they served obliterated. Like everything else the lens reports, descriptive of the time and place. Music from the Villages of Flanders. The sisters dance flamenco in the evening, knowing God is watching and approving. The brothers from up the highway come to join them, carrying guitars. There is nothing in their vows of poverty to contradict this, no unfaithfulness or breach of loyalty in their enjoyment. Seeing them, I smiled for the first time after so many reasons not to be smiling. I spent some of that time on the coast, unable to see or hear the ocean in a place whose name attests to its existence. And before that, in a black hole of a cell hidden in another country for what they called debriefings. I couldn't be sure of my own reality. My rendition was a rendering, and my brain the piece of fat sizzling in flames whose definition have no words any of you know. This too is what we do in holy earshot of our one Creator, in response to vows we've made to far lesser abstractions. And our Creator must have heard my cries. They sounded louder than the breakings. I will not join the brothers on guitar. I will not dance flamenco with the nuns. There are 29 bones in a hand. There are 26 more to break in each foot. And from the last of this year's books, the other one that I have on the table, Poems Against Cancer is a series I've written for the last 6 years. 30/30 during National Poetry Month. All the proceeds go to St. Baldrick's Foundation, which is where the title comes from. There's not a single poem in the 6 years of poems, 180 of them, that have anything to do with cancer. So it goes. Anna. A young farm woman sits on the lawn, jarring fireflies to light the way across the fields into town for an evening in the public house, rejoicing in dance, making music. They'll play the violin left-handed, she and her sister Nan, a silly, girlish shared affectation not outgrown by ambidextrous twins, identical but not really all that alike. Nan is loved by where she is, the nearest neighbor's son, the deep earth respondent to the seeds she touches as she buries them for rebirth. The wind is Anna's brother, suitor, confident companion, and all the things that travel in its arms call her or she them. Regard her hair, her neck, ringed by hummingbirds. A bright idea. Sometimes the only fountain to coax good fortune from is a puddle in the middle of your midnight basement, built of broken tears drying salt on your cheeks, but wet beneath your feet nonetheless. Perhaps if you were rich, perhaps not who you are, Rome would be in order, Trevi, or at least not so badly wanted. There's a light with frayed cord depending from a joist directly above this waiting lake of choice. What do you think? Your call. Reach for what could be heaven, or put up with nightmares and hope the sun will answer your wish. And the last one for this evening. Multiple choice question. She stands on tiptoes, red umbrella reflecting the city, warding the April rain. Leaning over the rail, what does she see in the river? The water on water far below. The possibilities clamor. Wave raised arms wildly, cry, "I know, teacher, pick me." Or maybe sit silently embarrassed by the chance of being wrong. A ring thrown off in anger that steamed hot in the spring chill. Regret widening the ripples that tumbled swiftly after. B, the memory of last night's kisses, equally heated in the shadow of a black umbrella meant for two. C, a simple workboat heading home, a single deckhand with his coffee. D, of course, all of the above. For extra credit, if you could live in a bell jar garden, safe from changes in all the weathers, what memories would you keep with you? Thank you all.